Hey Young Titans, this is Mr. Cier. I'm here to show you how to start your character creation in Illustrator. So I'm creating a new document right now. This is my third character that I'm making, so it's character creation 3. My first name is Mista and my last initial is C. I'm going to be in grade 99, and in this case, because my character stands upright, I switched the dimensions over here. It's still in inches, but I switched the 8.5 to the width and the height at 11. You don't have to do that if you don't want. Alright, so here's my new piece of paper, and I'm going to go to the file where I took a picture of my drawing, and I'm going to bring it into this picture. Once I have it in the picture, I'm going to use my selection tool, which is the black arrow, and move it to where I want it to be, basically within the borders of what's called an artboard in Illustrator. And I'm going to just click the page so it sets there. Whenever I go over it, it's going to highlight in blue just to show me that this is a picture, a drawing. So now I have to make the drawing in Illustrator, and I'm going to use the pen tool. The thing you have to think about when you're drawing in Illustrator is that you have to divide up everything into shapes by the colors that you want to color them. So for example, my legs and general body of this squirrel-like character is going to be one color, while the tufts of fur over here and his chest are going to be a different color. So I have to make them in separate shapes. I'm also going to have to make separate shapes as all the different parts of the face is over here, and in this part, which is also going to be a different color. Alright, so I'm going to start by using my pen tool in any area of my drawing, and click and release to drop my first anchor point, and then click and drag to create the first arch of the leg here. Click off my anchor point as I go, because remember, whenever you make a curve, you have to shut off those anchor points. So I'm making curves. Now what you'll start to notice is that as I'm tracing this drawing, the white gets in the way. So if I go over here and just tell it that I want the fill to be empty, I can click the fill and then click this red slash. That'll allow me to make it see-through so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just clicking and dragging to continue with my arches as if nothing ever happened. Okay, so now here the tufts of fur, which are going to be a different color, are going to be in the way. So I kind of don't have to worry about that. I'm going to Command Z there though, because I missed an arch. Alright, so whenever I can't create an arch that I'm trying to make, it means that I made my anchor point too far away. So I'm going to pretend that this fur isn't here for now, and I'm just going to draw just the rest around the outermost perimeter of this shape. So I'm not drawing the inner parts of the fist. I'm not going to follow that line in. And I didn't do that for the toes either. I just went around them, the outermost perimeter. So nothing will make me go inside these lines, almost as if I'm drawing from a stencil. In a stencil, you wouldn't draw inside the lines, you would just draw around them. Alright, so I don't need to follow this line because actually the chest is going to be a separate color that overlaps this one. Okay, and I'm going around the head. Alright, so for this part, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I'm going to go inside with my magnifying glass tool to get those details of the little bits of fur. Shut off my anchor point whenever I'm making a curve. Alright, I'm not going to make you watch all this, so what I'm going to do is fast forward, but I just want to mention that again, this line goes into the perimeter, so I'm not going to follow that line. I'm just going to go around the outermost perimeter first. And by the way, I also chose the biggest part of the character to draw as my first piece, and that's always a wise thing to do. Although the tail is the same color, I'm not going to do the tail as the same first shape. I'm going to make a separate shape for it because you can see that it goes behind the character. So I'm going to make a separate shape for that. I'm going to Command 0 now so I can see my whole page and continue around my body and arm. Again, I don't need this tuft of fur part because that's going to be a separate color that's going to overlap this shape. So I've already pretty much planned what's going to be what color in my head. If you need to color it, you absolutely could color your drawing first, but if not, have an idea of what you want things to look like so that you could do each color's outermost perimeter when you're doing it. I made my arch too far again, Command Z. One thing that might be different for some of the students who are making their drawings is if this hand were to cover part of this body, I would ignore the whole arm completely and just draw the body first, and then draw the arm in a separate shape, including the hand, so I can have it overlap as a separate drawing, which is exactly what I did with the tail for the same reason. So you might have to think about, I went too far again. You might have to think about the placement of overlapping body parts so that you could do them separately. By the way, just so you know, this isn't just a squirrel. He's what's known as a psionic, which is basically like a spellcaster who that would be his job or his occupation or his specialty. His expression is proud because he's proud of the powers that he's spellcasting right now. And he doesn't actually, he dresses like a squirrel, so I guess you would call him, you know, dresses like an animal. So he doesn't dress like a professional because he doesn't have a wizard's hat or anything like that, but he does dress like an animal, which is basically with fur. When I go to seal this up with my pen tool, well, the first thing that's happening right now is since I stopped what I was doing, so the slash is telling me that I'm going to continue my drawing. The circle is telling me that now it's going to seal that shape. So that little circle tells you what's happening there. All right, so now that I have the outermost perimeter done, I'm going to move that shape completely to the side. There it is. That's going to be the shape of my squirrel type, squirrel man or squirrel being right over there. His name is Calyx, by the way. So just so you know, I'm going to now start drawing the tail separately. So whatever I don't have as far as like, you know, whatever I can't see because there's other body parts in the way, I don't have to worry about them. So I'm just going to go around my curves just like I did for the first part. And when I get to areas that are covered, you'll see that I just go around them. All right, so here, for instance, I would have to go over the wrist. So again, I can't see that part of the tail, but I can see where it connects to like his rear end. So basically, I'm just faking where that line probably would be. And I'm going to do the same thing up until here, and I'm going to pull this line out because I want this area to be the same color as the tail to show that the tail is behind the arm. So all of this will be covered by his body later, so this shape is done. Now if you want to have an idea of how this is going to look, I'm just going to color these two parts. Alright, so now I have my two parts colored, and you can see that the tail needs to go behind the actual squirrel. So I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, and send that tail to the back. And you can already see how this drawing is coming out. The shape is already done. I can move the tail up a little bit. But other than that, it's pretty much exact to what's going on over here. That's what he would look like. I'm going to add more details and work on other shapes and let you come back and see the results. I just wanted to mention that while I was going around the outermost perimeter of my next shape, which is the same thing I'm going to do to every shape, I'm disregarding this hair that goes in. I'm disregarding this separate hair. I'm going to do that last. But as I'm going around the shape, I missed a couple of the spaces that I was supposed to go. So I could stop mid-drawing and go over to my direct selection tool, which is the white arrow. I can use that to move anchor points in. And this is the benefit of using Illustrator over using a pencil and an eraser. I would have to either scrap this whole drawing or erase it and leave it messy. But in Illustrator, you're able to control the drawing. So I'm using also these handles to change my arches a little bit so I can make sure that things match up the way I intended them to, and you know, doesn't leave the mistakes of that when I missed things. All right, so I'll talk to you again at the end of this part of the drawing. Okay, so you can see that I finished the entire chest area and the stomach, which is all going to be one color. It's going to be a lighter color of fur, so I just wanted to show you how that's going to overlap. Maybe something like that. And use my selection tool to move it over to my drawing and find the place where I think it best matches, which is about there. Okay, so you can see how I'm going to build basically this character one piece at a time. I also started drawing some of the other parts, so you can see that if I just drag this on, this is going to be his fist. So I did make that completely separately. And then his thumb is going to go right around there. And his fingernail, which is a different color, so that's going to come all around here. So basically any shape that has lines on it, let me zoom in so I can place that correctly. Anything that has lines on it is going to, or surrounding it, is going to be done separately. You could also modify your drawing as you go. Once you've made this, you no longer have to go with the way it is in the original drawing. You have to go with whatever makes it look best. So I just rotate it. Even though I drew that nail correctly, I think it's going to look better if I place it a little bit differently. Once again, I use the arrow keys on my keyboard. That'll help me to move it very specifically. All right, so there you go. That's how he's coming out so far. Command 0. And I could grab his nose that I've already made right here and give that its own new color, which is going to be almost like a pinkish kind of color. All right, so you see how he's coming out. I'm going to draw a couple more parts and get back to you.